The Ark of Constantine.
Sim? Now. No, I'm saying with the back.
Ark of Titus. The inscription records the dedication of this ark by the Senate and people of Rome to the emperor after his victory over Judea. Scenes from conquest are sculpted inside. One panel shows a procession with the booty taken from Jerusalem, including the 7-branched candlestick, another Titus and his chariot.
It's dedicated.
Right now you should be standing inside the gate at the entrance off the Via del Fore Imperiale. I study and write about ancient history, and what I've learned along the way has made the Forum one of my favorite places. This space was at the center of the Roman government for 11 centuries and remains one of the most important sites in the history of Western civilization. Its location was important long before the Republic came into existence, because the hills that surround it offered the Roman tribes safety from attack. The site is also a couple of kilometers from the Tiber River, which could be forded, helping to facilitate trade. Each time I visit the Forum, I feel the history of this great place. It was once the nerve center of a city of 1 million people. Government buildings, religious sites, businesses, all of them located in this relatively small space. Being here, I can't help being drawn into ancient Rome's great events, the speeches, the triumphs, and the meetings of the Senate. The voices behind those events are quiet now, but in a way you can still touch them. When you go to the Senate House, put your hand on the wall. That wall heard the speeches of Cicero. Back then, if you were standing where you are right now, you'd see magnificent marble and stone structures filling the entire space in front of you. You would hear the newsreader giving his headlines for the day, gossiping washerwoman, dueling gladiators, merchants shouting out special offers, and lawyers arguing publicly for their clients. But the structures here are much more than remnants of the past, marking what has fallen. Touching them puts you in direct contact with the success of Rome and the civilizations that inherited its culture. And it's that contact that has given me a lasting connection with the ancient world. If you haven't already, you can put your phone in your pocket now. Voice Map uses your location to play my voice automatically at the right place and time. Some silence is normal between points of interest, especially if you take things slowly. If you feel lost at any point, you can refer to the map on your screen. If you read the tour's description, you might have noticed I used the term
The road leading to Carini. The Vicus was one of the oldest roads in Rome. Ever since Republican times, it had linked the neighborhood of Carini on the Ischial line here, one of the most densely populated parts of Rome, with the Forum crossing the Via Sacra. The remains of this small structure, consisting of brick pillars and arcs, belongs to a private house that opened onto the street in the Middle Ages, when the ground level throughout the area was much higher, as can be seen from the foundations of the portico. So-called Temple of Four Formulas. On the basis of depiction on a coin, this building, unusual in shape of Roman architecture, is identified as a temple built by the Emperor Maximus in AD 307 in honor of his son who died in childhood. The circular building is flanked by two apsidal hills opening onto the front with porticos decorated in property columns. So-called carcer, the three small rooms opening onto a corridor with walls made of large tufa blocks and a travertine door and window frames are generally ascribed as a carcer. This is an error, as tradition attests existence of only one prison in Rome. They are probably housed for slaves and prisoners. View of the temple of Antoninus and Faustina. The extremely close vantage point makes this view of the temple of Antonius and Faustina one of the most evocative. It seems dedicated by Pirosny to the Roman Forum. It can be considered one of his most successful fusion of peace.
Hang on, I gotta get the picture.
The temple is indicated by the inscription was dedicated by the Senate of Faustina in AD 141, and when he died, to her husband, the Emperor Antonius Pius. The long walls of the cilia in square of the block were originally covered in marble. Regia, located near the Temple of Vesta. The Regia is believed to have been built by King Numa Pompilius as a place where the King of Rome exercised their political and religious power. Temple of Vesta. Partially reconstructed in the 20th century, the temple is linked to one of the Rome's most ancient and most important cults. Here, the Vestal Virgins tended the sacred fire, which was to burn perpetually as a symbol of the city's life force. Man, with the exception of the Pontifex Maximus, was severely prohibited from the entering. All that remains of the temple in the podium on which the column stood. Spring of Juturna. The fountain named after Juturna, which collected the water from a spring, dated to the Archaic period, 6th century BC. According to the legend, Castor and Pollux, the divine twins horsemen who led Rome to victory over the Latins, were seen here watering their horse, and it's thus dedicated to build the nearby temple in their honor. Oratory of the 40 Martyrs. The Oratory of the 40 Martyrs takes its name from a painting datable to the 8th century that adores the apse. It extols the devotion of the Christian soldiers condemned to die in the frozen waters of a lake at Sebaste in Armenia during the persecution of Diocletian. Caligula's constructions. The Church of Santa Maria Antiqua was installed in rooms added to enlarge the Domus Tiberiana towards the Forum. The rooms were built under Caligula and subsequently renovated by the Domitian. Given their strategic location, they always played an important role linking the Forum with the imperial palace above. Connecting stairs and latrine. On the Trajan, a staircase was inserted to the first landing in the Rome, which considered the atrium built under Domitian. North facade of the Domus Tiberiana. The high multi-story facades that look over the Roman Forum were constructed by the Emperor Hadrian in order to extend the facade of the Domus Tiberiana to the Via Nova in an architecturally splendid manner. Tiberius's palace was the first of the imperial residence of the Palatine to have a unified plan, although the remains of the residence on the slope of the hill are imposing. These made up just the support platform of Hadrian's later palace. Over there is a temple of Castor and Pollux. And then you can see the ark. The ark over there is the ark of Septimus Severus. And then that house over there, it is Curia. And then you can see the temple over there is temple of Antonius and Faustina. And then over here is Temple of Romulus. And then over there is Basilica of Maxentius.
Forum. So basically the public area of the city par excellence, we know that
buildings opening onto the Via Nova. The buildings that fronted the Imperial Via Nova dated from the Flavian to the Severian period. They were mostly shops and service structure, but there were also two-story homes with traces remaining of wall paintings and fragments of black and white mosaic floors. The name Via Nova is generally applied to the stretch of the road that runs in a straight line along the northwest slope of the Palatine, almost parallel to the Via Sacra. Or the itinerary sources that mention Via Nova dated to the Republican and Augustan periods, but the paved road and can be seen today relates to the urban developments in the early imperial period, probably in the region of Nero. Basilica of Maxentius. Basilica of Maxentius or of Constantine, also known as the Basilica of Nova. This is one of Rome's most imposing buildings, about 6,000 square meters, modeled on a huge room of the imperial baths. With three halls, construction was begun by Maxentius and finished by Constantine, with some alterations in the project. A second porticoed entrance formed by a sacra was added to the original entrance by the Colosseum.
Questo vuoi spendere? Lo stato pagano.
Basilica Aemilia. The Basilica Aemilia, built in 179 BC by Marcus Fulvius Nobilius and Marcus Lepidus, is the only surviving Republican basilica of the Roman Forum. The original building, which probably had a single nave and a single floor, was altered and enlarged several times by different members of the family, from which it takes the name. We call the interventions of Marcus Aemilius Lepidus in 78 BC and the one by Lucius Aemilius Paulus in 55 BC, whom belonged to the Friars.
These rocks representing columns? Yeah, so what is left, that was made with a special marble coming called breccia, coming from Northern Africa. You can see better the classes inside. An amazing column was made with this kind of marble coming from Northern Africa. And they were pre-made, one big nave right in the middle and two side aisles, like in a church. So when the Christians, they took over, they replicated, they copied this kind of system. Again, the church has a big nave and two side aisles. So
most churches look like that.
they called their churches basilicas because they were using the same attitude like the Romans. In here. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's a multifunctional building in the basilica. There were even shops. That was the floor of a shop. Taberna in Latin. And you can see the original one made of marble. The greenish, the purple, the whitish, the pinkish, the yellowish. The other section is made with the restoration system using tiles. But the original one is made of marble. So the Romans, they love to have multifunctional buildings, and they used to have this kind of multifunctional buildings on courthouse, business center, even trading shopping center. This is the original trash hole. Gold gems, black gold gems, cutaway, decoration.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Basilica Emilia, the earlier plan. The remains under the roof alone belongs to an early version of the basilica. They consist of a wall foundation and a column footing made from blocks of grotta oscura tufa, some which have visible quarry marks. This foundation shows that in first phase, the basilica had center nave and 2 aisles.
Teníamos que haber seguido para abajo.
Copernicus, astronomer. Copernico, the Revolution. In 1543, with the publication of his heliocentric theory, Copernicus forever changed our conception of the world and the universe. His system was perhaps first revealed in Rome in 1500, further developed in his manuscript. You're in the area of the Forum of Nerva, which takes its name from the emperor who inaugurated in AD 97. This forum, the fourth of the imperial fora, is found between the Temple of Peace to the south and the fora of Caesar and Augustus in the north. It took place in very ancient road, the Argyritum, which ran from Suburra to Roman Forum. From this spot in the Forum of Caesar, you have an excellent view in both the western side of the Forum and the plaza and the ruins of the Temple of Venus. By adding the temple, Julius Caesar also gave his forum, used principally for legal and administrative activities, a sacred function glorifying the legend that he saw in the goddess Venus in the mystical ancestor of his family. The building was rebuilt by Trajan and inaugurated in the second time AD 113. Further works were carried out after the fire of AD 283.
Hey, stand there.
Tak, więc jesteś w stanie po prostu folię rozkryć.
The Forum of Caesar. Forum of Augustus.
La sganciata cosa? Che è successo?
No, lei è venuta poco a posto su oggi, regalo, adesso non dicevo.
You are now in one of the cellars of the Alessandriano district, which occupied the area of the imperial fora from the end of the 16th century and was razed to the ground in the 1920s and 1930s in order to open via their imperial. Today, in particular, the discovery of this area dates back to the large-scale archaeological excavations, which were begun in 1998 by the municipality of Rome. Following the conquest of Dacia, the new province of the Roman Empire that largely corresponds to today's Romania, the Emperor Trajan sponsored the construction of the last and biggest of the imperial fora, which took its name from him. The forum, completed in AD 113, had its center at a large plaza, bordered on two sides of the porticos and enclosed in the south of the connected wall. North of the Pisa was the Basilica Iupia, used principally the House of Trials. Roman Forum. The Roman Forum lies in the valley surrounded by Palatine, Capitoline, and Esquiline hills. In the Republican period, this was political, economic, religious, and commercial heart of ancient Rome. The Roman Forum retained its importance, especially during the Republican period, when the valley gradually filled with Republican buildings whose remains are still preserved. These buildings, which most was always originally had a timber frame and brick facing, were reconstructed on various occasions, in part because they were frequently destroyed in fire or civic strife. Roman Forum, history of the excavations. Although the Forum was rediscovered in the Renaissance, scientific interest in this area only began in the late 18th century. This led in the 19th century to systematic explorations by illustrious archaeologists, including Cairo Fia, Antonio Nibi, and other people. The most extensive excavations were undertaken in the early years of the 20th century, directed by Giacomo Boni, explored the squid.
Commander of the army. He was risking his life like every day of his life. He wrote a little book. It's called "The Bell." It's a war diary. The Bell done France. So you can read still see a book that he wrote like.
We're gonna walk around and head back towards the hotel.
So they come here, listen to a political speech, pray next to a temple, make a sacrifice or donate something, and of course visit the shops. Okay, so this was a meeting place. Now I was saying that's the erarium, so the treasury behind. You see this building with the tower at the top? Now the lower level of the building is the ancient part.
The Basilica Emilia faces the Forum with a double-order portico. The 3 granite columns were raised during the reconstruction work of the late Empire. Behind the portico is a row of shops in tough blocks for mining 2 groups of 6 around the entrance.
Okay, would you like to leave this area right now? Because if you need, you can come with me.
Shrine of Venus, Cloacina. The circular base is placed above the tough structure set into ground, located where Cloaca Maxima enters the Forum. This is a shrine dedicated for Venus, Cloacina, containing 2 statues with the symbols of Venus. According to tradition, the young Regina was murdered here by her brother to prevent her falling into the hands of the Decemir Appius Claudius. The shrine was also used for the ritual purifications of the Roman and the Sabine armies. Basilica Iulia. The Basilica Iulia, like all the other basilicas, was a building to be used as covered space for all different kinds of social functions. It was begun by Julius Caesar in 54 BC in place of the Basilica Semporina and the Taberna Veterus. It was rebuilt by Augustus, who dedicated it in the 12 BC. The basilica suffered several fires over the centuries and was restored in 1st century AD by Diocletian and again after Archbishop of Rome.
Le dimensioni di un campo di calcio e a due di ghiacciare.
Honorary bases. The 7 brick column bases, originally clad in marble, line up on the south side of the square supported columns dedicated to illustrious individuals and dated to the late Empire from the 3rd century AD onward. Unfortunately, the disappearance of the dedicatory inscriptions makes it impossible to identify them. Lacus Curtius. This is the name given to the low paved area at center of which a circular altar can be seen. The name is explained by the presentation of a swamp in very ancient times, drained only under Augustus. According to the legend, a noble Roman named Marcus Curtius, depicted on a marble relief of the 1st century BC. He sacrificed himself by leaping into the swamp at the wishes of an oracle. Column of focus. Standing a brick base surrounded by steps, the column of focus rests a height of over 13 meters. According to the inscription carved in the piers, it was dedicated in honor of the Centurion elected emperor of Byzantium in AD 602, after having his predecessor Marcus and his 5 sons killed. The column gives an idea of what Forum's honorary columns look like, and the last monument have been raised on the square to remain standing for centuries. The secret tree of Rome, including Fuchsi's Erdős Natural History, inform us 3 plants growing in the Roman Forum Square. They symbol Roman culture. Ficus aurea vitus, agriculture, represented by the olive tree and the grape vine, was considered the activity most morally befitting to the Roman citizen. Vicus Irugarius. The Vicus Irugarius is one of Rome's most ancient roads. This route, virtually unchanged over the centuries, was already a shortcut to the regal period between the Forum Valley, where it's crossed perpendicular via Sacra, and the harbor on the left bank to the Tiber.
Im November, das ist schon cool. And
Millenarium Autorium. The scarce marble remains with pyramid decoration belong to a monument known as Millenarium Aureum, erected by Augustus in 20 BC when he became the caretaker of roads. It consisted of a large column of which the distance between Rome and Provence Empire, calculated in miles from the gates in the Savian walls, were marked in gold letters. Temple of Saturn. The temple, one of the most ancient in Rome, stands in foot of the Capitoline Hill on a high podium made of square blocks. In the cilia, possessed by a portico with 6 columns that still survive with the architecture, was statue of Saturn. The Ark of Septimius Severus. The Ark of Septimius Severus was erected in 203 AD at the end of the Via Sacra to celebrate the victories of the emperor and his sons over the Parthians in ancient Persia. Like many ancient monuments, it was used in the Middle Ages as a fortress and was progressively buried over the following centuries. Only the 19th century, when it was free from all incubarians, it was in the subject of major excavations, and the restoration work lasted until the first half of the 20th century. Temple of Concord, the temple of which only the podium and part of the elevation survives, was built by Furius Camillus after between the Republican period in 10 DC.
Ну, она мне сказала, что она вроде вчера еще должна была появиться. Я ей так поняла.
Portico of the Harmonious Gods. Reconstructed in the mid-19th century with ancient material recovered from excavations, the portico has an unusual shape. It consists of 12 columns with the same number of rooms behind them. Only 7 survive, each dedicated to one of the Olympian gods. The building already existed in the 1st century BC, but was rearranged several times. The remaining visible today dates back to the late 1st century AD. Before the fire in the region of Nero, the house of the Vestals had a different shape, size, and orientation. The oldest surviving structure dates to 6th century BC. It was then rebuilt from tough blocks in the 3rd century BC and redesigned in the late Republic, early Empire. Recent excavations have revealed dating to the mid-8th century. This has been the earliest home out of the place's mid-8th BC century. Here beneath the imperial paving with chambers of heating system, the remains of walls and mosaics of the Republican house of Vestals were found. The Vestal Virgins. The priestly order of Vestal dates back to Romulus or Numa, 8th century BC. Priestesses has to be young, aristocratic virgins and were chosen by the Pontifex Maximus when they were between ages of 6 and 10. Their service as priestess lasted for 30 years and brought them wealth and privilege, but also requested chastity and observation of rituals. Room D. Fragments of Catius sent to Vatay from more than one hourglass-shaped milestone. Since the discovery, the room has been interpreted as a pistorium or mere, given circular shape and discovery. Some fragments of elements pertaining more than one hourglass-shaped milestone. Room E. It can be conjectured that Room E originally housed a triclinium, suggested by the presence of two large windows that look towards the presbytery and the inner courtyard, decorated with a fountain.
Da, mislim da je ovo deo gde se vršili kao rituali, ako sam dobro pročitala. Tu su bile neke kuhinje i palovi koji... Znači, ovdje su ovdje davili koji...